The entirety of the Siege of Mandalore was probably the best prequel story I've ever experienced. And I don't mean the prequel era of Star Wars, I mean just any prequel story, period. A lot of times when we start exploring what came before a story we already know, people start complaining about the fact that we know how the story ends, we know who survives, so what's the point, where's the tension, and so on. But the Siege of Mandalore proves that it's possible to tell an intense and compelling prequel story even when all of that is true. We know Ahsoka and Rex survive. I knew quite a bit of the ending of this arc from the Ahsoka novel, and I was still on the edge of my seat for all 4 episodes. The series finale of the Clone Wars, titled Victory and Death, stuck the landing and left me with this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. These episodes are the best the show has ever been, and I'm so grateful we got to see this series with the ending it deserved, the ending that was always envisioned. With Rex back to normal, he and Ahsoka have to make it to the hangar bay, steal a shuttle, and escape. On top of that, she is determined to not kill any of the clones if she can help it. That one little detail, which remains throughout the rest of their fight, says so much about who she is. Just because the clones betrayed her doesn't mean she will do the same in turn. She doesn't seek any kind of revenge, she looks for the non-violent solution. Compare that to Yoda and Obi-Wan, who returned to Coruscant, lightsabers blazing, cutting through the clones like they weren't best friends just yesterday. Despite her own belief that she is not a Jedi, she represents what a Jedi truly should be in many ways. And it's interesting that she was primarily trained by Anakin and then Obi-Wan second, so she got the traditional and the more flexible lessons. Not to mention she got to spend time with plenty of other Jedi Masters throughout the series. It's like she took the best parts of everyone to then become the best she could be. While Ahsoka is doing her best to save lives, Maul doesn't care at all. He continues to move through the clones in spectacular fashion and destroys the hyperdrive, setting the Star Destroyer on a collision course with a nearby planet. I love that he is doing exactly what Ahsoka wanted, creating chaos as a diversion, but letting him out of his cage also turns out to be such a curse for her and Rex. But she also didn't have much of a choice, and I just applaud that level of storytelling where we know freeing Maul is good in the moment and bad in the long term, but what else could she do? I like that Ahsoka's actions led to her own obstacles and Maul's eventual escape by stealing her own shuttle. But this is one of those episodes that just had a lot of action in it, and it was all cool, and again, the show has never looked better, but when it's mostly running, shooting, and lightsabering, there isn't as much to talk about. I did love Ahsoka using the Force to throw her lightsabers into the floor and then cut a circle around them to make a quick getaway, but to me, this was the episode that made it most apparent this should just be a movie, because I don't feel it stands on its own quite as well as the first 3 parts. So I'm gonna skip to the end, the resolution, because after the awesome Y-Wing freefall and the massive ship crash and all the excitement that came before, this was my favorite part of the episode. I knew from the Ahsoka book that Ahsoka and Rex faked their deaths with a false grave. I was not expecting that grave to be for all the clones. After everything that just happened to them, Ahsoka and Rex still saw them as their friends and brothers. They buried every clone they could find and marked their graves with their helmets. I knew 2 episodes ago when Maul let Jesse live that it only meant we'd have to deal with a more tragic death for him later, and seeing his helmet really hit me. But on top of this being like a final death and goodbye for every clone we have come to know and love over the course of this series, it's a death for the Republic as well. Having Jesse's helmet with the Republic cog marking a grave is so sad and perfect. It's less subtly stated when we transition to some unknown amount of time into the future. The clones have been replaced by stormtroopers, and Darth Vader is looking to confirm the death of his Padawan. He finds the lightsaber she left behind, and I suppose that was enough proof. And that was the first time I really felt like changing her lightsabers from green to blue, despite contradicting the Ahsoka book, was a good choice. Vader sees this lightsaber that belonged to someone he loved, a daughter, a sister, a friend, however you want to put it, and not only that, but when she wasn't around, he tinkered with it, put a little bit of himself into it. I'd really love to know what he was thinking about as he held it in his hands again. Was he hoping she was alive? I don't know. But he walks away, and the final shot is of a clone trooper helmet, the past, reflecting the present. The clones forgotten, but not by us. Because again, that's what this series did so well. It humanized the clones and made them people instead of just faceless cannon fodder. It made their story tragic, when before they were just soldiers who betrayed their generals and friends. They were pawns in a game meant to be used and discarded, and they were seen by even some of their generals as completely expendable. But we got to see that these people that shared the same face wound up being more unique and independent than their successors, the Stormtroopers. I do think Part 4 of The Siege of Mandalore was my least favorite, but it was still great. The bar was just set really high in the other parts, and I still think the ideal way to experience this story would have been as a full-fledged movie. I look forward to the inevitable fan edits of that, or maybe Disney Plus will give us that option in the future. But that's all I have to say about Victory and Death. I'm planning on doing a full review of Season 7 in the near future, so I'll talk more broadly about the siege as a whole, the way it was probably meant to be discussed. But until then, let me know what you thought of the series finale of the show in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page where we've been doing audio commentaries for all these new Clone Wars episodes. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.